Hello, welcome to the Zenshin Self-Defense Academy, and I'm doing another video because why not? Because I haven't done videos in forever. I've got 3 YouTube channels and I just don't post on them anymore. I just don't. I got one for my outdoors adventure, Bentley's Backwards Bushcraft. I've got one for my paganism, Mystic Order of the Sacred Circle, and I have one for my martial arts, Zenshin Academy. But I don't really post on them. Anyway, I have been watching, I always watch YouTube. I love watching martial art videos on YouTube. I would say it's probably legitimately at least 90% of what I watch. The only thing I do on YouTube, or I'm sorry, the only thing I do on the internet is basically YouTube. That's about it. I have a Facebook group for my paganism belief system, but I don't do a whole lot with that. I check my email on occasion because I volunteer at a local prison for the pagan community there, and I tend to try to keep track of days that I can go and can't go, because sometimes they get really stabby over there. But anyway, YouTube is at least 90% of everything I do on the internet, and I would say at least 90% of what I do on YouTube is all martial art based. So anyway, I watch a lot of martial art videos. I'm saying it in a very long way, but really I just watch a lot of martial art videos. I love watching martial art videos on martial arts that I do not train. I like watching martial art videos on systems I have trained. I enjoy watching martial art videos about martial arts that I don't even like, but I still like watching them. I did recently catch a video about two guys arguing, because that's all people do on the internet anyway, especially on YouTube, is just bitch at each other about how they're right and everybody else is wrong. The system that I was looking up was called 52 blocks. There's a lot of made-up history about that system, but it didn't really get created until the mid to late 70s, early 80s. And it was based off of New York City's prison system. People, the urbanized culture of the 1970s and 80s New York prison scene developed a martial art they called 52 blocks. Anyway, to me, it looks very undistinguishable from Filipino Panantukan, but that's beside the point. Anyway, I was looking at videos on that system. I like it. They've got some good ideas, so I was looking it up, and I found some argument that two guys, maybe around my age, because apparently, because they were talking about the 1980s when they were in their 20s, which is probably around my age. I think these guys are probably, so they're nearly 60, and they're still arguing about stupid shit like, oh, he didn't acknowledge me, and oh, I didn't get the proper credit from him, and so I stumbled upon the first guy who was countering something that someone else had done on his channel, bitching about how he didn't get the proper respect. He did not respect his authority. So anyway, I watched this guy's video. I don't have any skin in the game. I don't really care who's right or wrong, if there is a such thing. Honestly, and then I went and watched the other guy's video. I will admit, from an objective point of view, because that's what I have, I don't care either way. I'm not taking one person's side versus another. I simply looked at the videos, looked at both of them, and only on those videos I made a personal judgment call. But I think it's very objective because I don't give a shit either way. From what I've seen, personally, the guy I watched first, who was, I think, defending the position, seemed to be a little more reasonable about it, and seemed to be, if I had to pick a side, and strictly just from those videos, like I said, I don't know who's right or wrong, if there is a such thing. I don't know who started it. I don't know anything about it. I don't know these people. I've never spoke to them a day in my life. I have seen videos from both of them. But I would think the first guy I watched probably was a little more reasonable, personally. If I had to take a side, if like there was a gun pointed at my head and said, take a side or I'm blowing your head off, I probably would have took the guy I watched first. I would have took his side, simply because of the way he presented it. And again, I'm only getting one video from these guys, and that's all I'm making any judgment calls. So after watching his video, I went to watch what apparently was the first video that started it. That guy was a lot more, he was a lot more erratic. He was a lot more loud. They both seemed to be concerned, even though they both said it didn't have anything to do with it. They both seemed to be more concerned about pride and ego, as far as you didn't recognize me and I've got this rank, and the other guy's like, you didn't say that I was your instructor and you're only this rank, you're not this rank. And the other guy was saying he was twice the rank that he was presented to be from the other guy. There's a bunch of bullshit, a bunch of teenage bullshit from people that are probably in their 60s, definitely in their late 50s. They both said it had nothing to do with rank and ego and pride and all that shit, but that's all I saw. Now, like I said, I don't have skin in the game. I don't really give a shit who's right or wrong, if there is a right or wrong. They both believe they're correct, which is obvious. Anybody who gets into an argument for whatever it is always believes that they're on the side of right and that they're right and the other person has to be wrong because it has a different viewpoint than they do. It doesn't always work out that way. It's not how it really is most of the time. But regardless, I was watching it, and I will also tell people I don't really give a shit about belts and ranks. I try not to throw around, oh, I don't care about them, but blah, 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 blah. Now, I do have a list of credentials and a list of titles or what is a list of things that I've done, and I have pride in that. I'm not going to lie. I have pride in my accomplishments, or what I see as my accomplishments. I have pride in that. I'm not going to lie about it. And because there's pride in there, there has to be a little ego. It just has to be. So I do have some ego about obtaining certain things in my life. Now, do I have 2 black belts? I do. But I've studied 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I've studied at least 7 or 8 martial arts. Seriously. I've studied a lot more, less than serious, but I mean seriously, I've studied several different martial arts, and I've obtained black belts from almost none of them. I don't give a shit. I really don't care. The belt was never what I was attempting to accomplish. I was always looking for the skills and the knowledge that was involved in it. Now, sometimes that black belt just came along with that. As a matter of fact, when I got my black belt in Aikido, I told my instructor I didn't want the damn thing. I told him, I said I wasn't testing for my black belt. I specifically told him I wasn't testing for a black belt because I didn't give a shit. Now, that went on for like 2 years, telling him I wasn't going to do it. I just didn't give a shit. And I made a point to not do it. Eventually, he had 2 points. One of them I agreed with. The other one I think was bullshit. But his first point was that he knew I wanted to teach, and I was going to teach what I was learning. And his statement, which was true and still is, that people want to see the black belt in an instructor. That's just what they want to see. And it's true that they just want to see that. So I couldn't disagree with that because it was a true statement. I had to agree with it. It was accurate. And then he pulled some bullshit saying he was dying of cancer and he wanted me to take over the system, and to do that I had to do that. And I didn't necessarily really believe he was dying of cancer because he had a tendency to lie about everything. And this was back in, well, he finally got me to do the black belt test in like 05, 06. and it's like 2026 right now, and he's still running around. I think the cancer thing was bullshit. But he was correct. People who are taking instruction from someone, at least in our day and age, and in the United States where I'm at, they expect to see the black belt. It's just expected. So he got me on that one. So in 2005, late 2005, early 2006, somewhere around there, I can't remember. I got the certificates in there somewhere. Anyway, I went ahead and tested for my black belt and got my black belt. And I in Zenshin Aikijitsu, that is my system. I've never hid the fact that I created Zenshin Aikijitsu. That's mine. Now, there's nothing unique about it. As far as techniques go, I didn't make up anything that hasn't already been made up by somebody else. When it comes to techniques, I think the Zenshin Aikijitsu is martial art designed by me for me. I have always, my entire life, I started martial arts in 1978, longer than most people that are watching this video has probably ever even been alive. I started training martial arts in 1978. I was 12 years old, and I never could eat up until I finally decided to create Zenshin Aikijitsu. I never found the one definitive art that was perfect for me. And for any of you out there who are looking for that one definitive art that's perfect for you, I'm going to tell you from my experience, you will never find it unless you create it for yourself. Just from my experience, that's the answer. Filipino Kali mixed with Indonesian Salat was my very first encounter of what I considered to be a realistic combat art, and I found that in the mid 80s. But it wasn't perfect for what I was looking for. It wasn't perfect. Up until that point, it was the best thing I found. And then I branched out over here. And no matter what I found, I would find a piece of something, but I wouldn't find the whole thing. It was a piece of this, a piece of this, a piece of this. So one day I just realized, there is no such thing as a perfect martial art for Richard unless Richard makes it up. So I took this and took this and took this, and there we are. Now, Zenshin Aikijitsu is, for me, the best martial art I'll ever train, because I created it for me in mind. Sometimes it works for other people. That's great. Those are the people I teach. It doesn't always work for everybody, and those are the people that ignore me. So that's the way it is. But if you're looking to find the perfect martial art, now you may find one that satisfies what you want. Go for it. But if you want to find the perfect martial art for you, you have to go out and train as many things as you can get a hold of, and then piece them together to make them fit exactly the way it works for you in the best possible way. That's the only way to do it. So Zenshin Aikijitsu was created by me for me, and that's that. I do not, and I've talked about belt ranks before. Never did use them ever up until, like I said, I played with them about 10 years ago. I didn't like it. Got rid of it. Then about 5 or 6 years ago, my mind was changed out of practicality for a business-like martial art. Zenshin Aikijitsu isn't a business. It's something I do out of the love of it. It's got nothing to do with, I don't make money on this. Never have made money. I've always lost money on it. I've had this dojo since 1995, and I would have never been able to keep it going if it was not for the fact that throughout my life I have created some really good friendships and acquaintances that has given me the benefit to be able to train this without worrying about rent and without worrying about overhead and stuff like that. So not for a moment should anybody think that this is a popular martial art, because it's not. But it never was supposed to be popular. It was only supposed to be for me. That's how it started. It started for me. I've just found people throughout my life that's enjoyed it enough to actually train it. So, but back to these other guys. I mean, one person is saying, I've mentioned you enough, get over it. The other guy's like, you didn't mention me at all, and I'm your master. Bullshit. I have a genealogy of systems that I've trained. I have a list from myself up to the person that created the art, and maybe a couple of them I have a little past that. But as far as me sitting here and saying, oh, well, here's a great example. Okay, so generally, I would say mostly, the only person on that whole genealogy line from myself up to the person who created the art in the first place, generally one or two people are the only people I've ever even met or ever even trained with at all. I don't think that there's more than 3 people on that line, more than 2 people actually. I don't think there's a third person on any of those lines that I've actually trained with. I can't sit here and tell you, oh, I learned this technique from this person, so now I must kowtow and praise them to all ends, and anytime I ever talk about that technique, I have to praise them. Fuck that shit. Even if I wanted to do that, there's no freaking way I could sit there and name somebody specifically throughout, forever. I don't have the mentality for that, and I don't have the desire for it. And like I said, 5 or 6 systems that I've actually trained, dedicated to train, and then there's countless ones that I've just puddled around with and got what I wanted, and that was that. And there's a lot of skills I've learned from video. A perfect example. I've never met this guy, Marco Lala. I never met him before. I have talked with him briefly on the internet, but I mean, there's been no physical. I've never actually physically met the guy. I've never had any real conversations with him. Don't know this guy from Adam, right? But I got some video VHS tapes, I believe, from him years and years ago, back when I was training in MMA, and I learned some skills from him. A technique he called the scorpion lock is what he called it, and I've always called it the scorpion lock because that's how I learned it. I watched him do it on a videotape. I learned it, I trained it, I practiced it, and I've used it. It's freaking works fantastic for me. Now, when I talk about the scorpion lock, or when this story comes up, I say, hey, I learned that from a videotape from Marco Lala. But I'm not going to sit there every time I use the scorpion lock on somebody in training or competition or in real life if I had to. I've never used it in real life, but it would work perfectly. But I'm not going to say, oh, and I got this from Marco Lala. Thank you, Marco. Oh, I must bow to you forever. Or any other technique that I've learned from God knows how many different people. You know, I'm not going to sit there and mention their name every freaking time. And going back to the videos that I was watching, the two people arguing, it seemed like that's what this one guy wanted, and this other guy didn't do it. So he kind of got a little lippy. James Nielsen is one of the most important martial artists that I've trained with. I've trained with him in 3 different martial arts. And I say it all the time. Now, Ray Murphy was my first instructor. I'm not taking anything away from Ray. It was Matsumuro style. Something fell from the tree. Matsumuro style Shorin-ryu. I didn't care for Matsumuro style Shorin-ryu. The only thing that I really learned from that system in the late 70s in my early career was that it wasn't for me. That's really what I learned. I'm not taking anything from Ray Murphy, but I can't really mention him as somebody that really taught me anything other than that's not what I want to do. But I'm not going to say that every freaking time I say, well, that wasn't a martial art I didn't want to do, because it wasn't what I was looking for. Thank you, Ray. You know, it just isn't going to happen. My second Shorin-ryu instructor was Larry Martin. I had a much more friendly acquaintance relationship with him than I did with Ray. So Larry and I still talk to this day. We still talk. I don't talk to Ray. I'll be honest, he may be alive, he may not be. I don't know. I did see him 3 or 4 years ago, I think, was the last time I seen him. He wasn't in the greatest of health. But I talked with, as a matter of fact, Larry Martin came up to the dojo a few months ago and hung out. So, but I don't sit there and say, oh, and Larry taught me this, and oh, thank you, Larry, bow, bow, bow. I'm not going to do that. James Nielsen, I trained with in the Matsumuro style Shorin-ryu karate. He's the reason that I got into Filipino Kali. It was him that started me on that path, and he was the reason I trained ninjutsu. I talked in one of my other videos that I did ninjutsu for about a year or so, and really the only reason I did it was more to get to train with the guy that was teaching it rather than just the system, and it was because of James. He's very, very important in my martial career, but I'm not going to bow down to him every freaking time I do something that he taught me. Chad Wagner. Chad Wagner is instrumental, the single most important when it comes to my MMA career. Chad Wagner. But it wasn't just Chad that taught me everything. Chad gave me the opportunity to do that. He's the one that got me into Animal House. He's the one that got me into cage rage and fighting. Because of my connections with him, got me there. But there was so many other people I've trained with, tons and tons, and gals. Hello, Julie Ketzi. You'll never watch this, I know, but I got to train with her for a couple years, and I learned a lot of stuff from her. But again, it's not something I'm going to say, well, I did this, and guess what? It was because of Julie, and da 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 da. I don't do that. I don't think anybody does that, really, and I can't comprehend or understand why someone would get pissed off, which this guy did, because he's not being mentioned constantly. To me, that's just an ego thing, and he got hurt feelings. That's what it was. He got hurt feelings. I don't know, something to do with respecting his authority. It's just ridiculous stuff. But Zenshin Aikijitsu was never supposed to worry about that sort of shit. I've trained with a lot of people. I've trained a lot of people. Now, if someone gives me credit, which there have been people who have, thank you. You know, I appreciate it. I absolutely appreciate it when someone says, hey, you know, Richard, you know, boom. Yeah, I like it. It makes me feel uncomfortable sometimes when it happens, because I don't need to hear that. I mean, I'm glad that I played a part in that, and I appreciate the fact that they feel it's important enough to them that they want to mention me. I appreciate that. I really do. It does make me feel uncomfortable sometimes when it happens, but it doesn't need to happen. I could care less, you know, if I'm never mentioned by anybody. I'm just happy to be part of the chain. That's all it is. I'm just happy to be part of the chain. I know I'm a part of the chain. It doesn't matter if the rest of the links have any idea I'm a part of the chain or not. I'm only concerned, you know, I feel good about it. I don't really care whether they feel good about it. You know, it doesn't matter if I'm mentioned. It's cool when I am. I like it. I'm not going to say I don't. I've been retired from MMA, well, since technically 2002, but I did fight 2005. But I always use 2002 as my retirement because that's when I really retired. I just kind of came out of retirement and took a fight. But regardless, it's 2026 and I've been retired since 2002. And people still remember that last fight I had, that title fight. You know, every once in a while I still find somebody that recognizes me from that, and I still hear stories about people talking about, you know, this guy and this, that, and it ends up being me. I love that. I'm not going to lie. I have just as much pride and ego as anyone else does. I love hearing that. But I don't have to hear it to make myself feel good. And I don't understand why they need that. I really don't. I really don't. But thanks for listening to my rambling. It's getting a little chilly, so I'm going to get back in the house. So thanks for watching.